Hi, my name is Jocelyn Runda. I'm actually a student here at West Valley College, and I'm here with one of my instructors, Mike Burke. I understand you are teaching a curriculum as part of the West Valley Global Entrepreneurship Grant. That's a program that's going to be integrated with the high school students and middle school students here in Silicon Valley. Can you please tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. It's good to be with you, Jocelyn. I'm very excited. Um, we're not teaching the curriculum yet.
Okay.
What we're in the partnering with the high schools and the middle schools, eventually that's the goal. Right now we're developing a curriculum that is going to help young folks get ready to do business internationally at all levels with all kinds of different countries. And the way we're going to do this is the committee has been chosen to each kind of take a country and really get an in-depth why we do business with this country, how we should do business with this country, why it's important, what is it we need to know to be successful. So as an example, in my unit, which would be China, I would include things like cultural background, business practices, mannerisms, titles, so that what happens when any of these young entrepreneurs actually get involved in doing business with China, they would have some educational background so that they could actually practice it when they show up. So the idea is to partner with these schools by helping them through a curriculum that we've developed, because all of us have done the research and know how to do business, or ideally do business, or experience.
So you feel it's important for young entrepreneurs to learn about other cultures?
Oh, most definitely. As a very practical point, when I went overseas a couple times to do some business, in cultures there are definite ways to eat a meal. And there are definite times of night that you eat the meal. And for example, I went to a business dinner in Paris that was at 11:30 at night. I was almost hysterical because as an American, I've been in bed 4 hours by that point. So in reality, it's really very simple things, but you have to be aware of them and you have to know about them prior to doing them, or you'll pay the price that I paid of really struggling to try to get through the night, as it were. Some cultures smoke. Some cultures smoke at dinner. And if you're not used to that or you're not comfortable with that, that's something you're going to have to be aware of and deal with in order to do business wherever it is that we happen to be talking about. So it's most important you do your homework.
So, as a young student here, what could you recommend to students in the States to acknowledge and learn about China?
Great question. Because it dawns on me, a 15-year-old, all this stuff, a 50-year-old might say, Mike, how do I get involved? I can't go to China and learn about China going to China. So I think it's a great question, Jocelyn. Just a couple of very practical examples, I think, that would make sense and would be implemented easily is, one, I would volunteer, find out if there are clubs that I can get involved in. I'd make friends with any Asian folks that happen to be in the community, in the school, whatever, and ask them practical questions about their own country. Then something that occurred to me that I think would really be beneficial, you go to the consulate or the embassy locally and say, I'd really like to learn about your country. Is there something I could get involved in? Could I volunteer here? Are there groups I could look into or something like that? Or you go and you say, I'd like to find out about your country. I'm going to have a project. I'm going to make a video. I'm going to make a photo album. I'm going to make something. Will you help me? Where do I go to do this? And start to build a background of fundamental knowledge about the country that you're most interested in. And I think eventually, and what I've learned recently and read about recently, a lot of young American students, not 15-year-olds, but college students, are now going to China to get their formal education. As well as all as Chinese folks coming here to get educated, the trend seems to be there are a lot of American students now going to China to get formally educated. So I think eventually, especially for a 15-year-old, you might be able to look out there and say, you know, there could be an opportunity for me eventually, if all this involvement I have makes sense for me, to maybe consider going to China to be formally educated and graduate from a college there, and then just stay there and raise my family and do business. I've been assigned China.
Oh, okay. And so why China?
Great question. China, I think obviously because it's so large geographically and the population is so huge that if we don't understand and recognize that they're going to be a player, we as a country and young entrepreneurs are going to be in real trouble because the competition is going to be severe, and if we don't acknowledge it and prepare for it, we're going to struggle as entrepreneurs. So the best way to get people ready for this, at least in our opinion, is seek first to understand, then be understood. So as Americans, I think it's to our benefit to understand China, and the only way we understand China is by studying about it and gathering information, and then applying that when it comes time. How do we do that? Get it into the school system.
So have you had any other, have you had experiences conducting business in other countries?
Well, it's very interesting you bring that forward because, yes, I have. And to share that experience, so it kind of relates to what we're talking about here, I had to go make a presentation years ago, not recently, but years ago. I had to go to Paris and make a presentation in Paris. The long and the short of it is I went with a group of people to make this presentation to a very large audience at the university in Paris. And on my way to the stage, because I was opening the program, on my way to the stage to start everything and do the introduction, the whole thing, the person walking me to the stage says, "Mike, now you know you need to say something in French." And I was clueless. I had no idea. I said, "No, I didn't know that." Well, had I prepared properly and understood what was going to be required, I would have had something, but I didn't. And I got up and I was introduced, as Mike Burke from Silicon Valley, and I said, "Good evening, and you could have heard a pin drop." So I set the tone that was obvious. I was not in touch with the French culture when it comes to being involved in meetings. And later in the night we had dinner, and dinner is at 11:30 at night.
Oh, wow.
I was no more prepared. I'm one of these guys in America that's in bed at 7:30 at night. So I was completely unprepared to do business outside of America, in spite of the fact, well, I'm a very good businessman, I know what I'm doing and all that stuff. I blew it. I have to teach our young folks the importance of being educated on a worldwide basis, how to do business in different countries and with different companies. So we've been chartered to build this curriculum and then get it evaluated, and if it passes evaluation, get it out into the community for teaching to the high school and middle school students.
Well, that sounds exciting. For any of our young entrepreneurs out there, can you recommend or suggest anything as to how they can get started?
Well, sure. A couple things come to mind right away. One, and I think this is really the most important point, you have to believe that all these other peoples in these other countries are important. Otherwise, you might have a tendency to overlook them and poo-poo them, like when I was younger I did a couple times, and it cost me. And then the second thing is, if in fact you really buy into the concept that these people and these countries are important and they're major players in the success of me and my own company, then I have to really prepare to do business with them, and the preparation in doing business with them encompasses all these different kinds of things. You know, I'm going to have to do some studying, I'm going to have to do some practical application, I'm going to have to do some research, and perhaps even go on a trial run to these countries to, see how they really operate. Oh, to kind of wrap it up, it occurs to me that I think there are three things to really be considered as we look out regarding China, Jocelyn. Mm-hmm. And that's one, just the sheer population. in the numbers. The numbers are so overwhelming that it's almost a given we're going to have to deal with each other or collaborate. Two, the geographic size of the company and the country and the opportunities that are going to be available there. And then three, if you're paying any kind of attention, we are very financially closely aligned with the Chinese, and they have a great deal of influence on us as we could have on them as this thing moves forward. So I think it's really a country that we can't afford not to prepare to do business with in the future.
Well, thank you, Mike, for speaking to me about your curriculum. I wish you success with the curriculum development. Thank you.
Jocelyn, thanks. It's great being with you.